everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking a little bit about land trusts and what does a land trust do. But before we get into that, my name is Carly. I work with the North Coast Regional Land Trust, and my work really focuses on community stewardship, engagement, and restoration. And for the entire month of May, the North Coast Regional Land Trust has been hosting a Connect to the Outdoor series where we have been providing short 15-minute videos every Thursday in hopes to continue to provide you all opportunities to connect with the outdoors during shelter in place and a time where we all may not be getting outside as much as we are used to. So thank you for tuning in. And today, this is going to actually be our fourth and final Connect to the Outdoors episode, and we are focused on what does a land trust do? And we're going to be talking broadly about what a land trust is, and then we'll dive in a little bit deeper and talk about what the North Coast Regional Land Trust mission is and what strategies and tools we implement in order to conserve lands here on the North Coast. So I want to start us with what is a land trust? And a land trust is a nonprofit organization whose mission or whose work is focused around protecting landscapes for the different values that it provides. So that can be scenic, that can be natural, that can be historic, educational. There are many different values associated with land, and each land trust is working on protecting the landscape for those specific values. And there are land trusts all throughout California and nationwide, and each one has a slightly different focus because they're all in different geographical areas, or many are, and protecting and promoting those landscapes can look very different depending on where you are. And so some land trusts are focused on a particular area or region. Other land trusts may be more focused on promoting public access. And some land trusts are more focused on education and outreach. And so the North Coast Regional Land Trust, our focus, which I'll get into a little bit more in just a moment, is really on protecting and promoting wild and working lands throughout Humboldt, Del Norte, and Trinity counties in Northern California. So, have you heard of a land trust in your area, wherever you're watching this live or rebroadcasted video from? What land trusts have you heard of besides the North Coast Regional Land Trust? I'd love to hear about them, so leave me a comment in the comment box. So the North Coast Regional Land Trust, in particular, is dedicated to protecting and promoting working landscapes, wild and working landscapes. And a working landscape, those can be farms, forests, grazing lands, and any other land that supports resource production. And the North Coast Regional Land Trust work really combines conservation and restoration in order to protect and promote these wild and working landscapes, because we hope that we can demonstrate that these landscapes can not only support resource production, but also wildlife habitat and at times public access. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. And so land trusts, I talked about this a little bit, but they have several tools at their disposal in order to conserve and protect landscapes. And I'm only going to be focusing on two of those tools today, just two. But the two tools that I want to focus on, the first is conservation easements, and the second, number two, is fee property acquisition, so the acquisition of lands. And so a conservation easement is a legal document that a landowner voluntarily enters into, a legal agreement that runs in perpetuity with the landscape. So it runs with the landscape forever. And in some cases, these agreements allow the landowner to give up certain development rights on the property in return for tax incentives. So namely, a reduction in their property taxes due to a diminished property value. And when we enter into a conservation easement with a landowner, it requires stewardship on the land trust in. We take on the responsibility of the easement, of monitoring and upholding all of the agreed upon terms of the easement. And that requires yearly monitoring. So we'll go out to these properties and ensure that all of the terms of the easement are being upheld. And this also, one of the things that we really love about conservation easements as a tool for conservation is that it empowers landowners and families to continue to steward their land for hopefully generations to come. And so that is a very, very brief introductory into what a conservation easement is. And I really encourage you, if you're interested in understanding conservation easements a little bit more, to check out our website at ncrlt.org. You can find a link also from our Facebook page. But if conservation easements are something you want to learn a little bit more about, I definitely encourage you to go check out our website. And so the second tool for conservation that I want to talk with you all about is fee acquisitions. And so fee acquisitions, or what we call, so when we acquire land, sorry, I'm gonna get us all nice and tuned in, there we go. So the direct acquisition of land, or what we call fee properties, is another tool that a land trust has in order to conserve land. And we, the North Coast Regional Land Trust, have acquired 3 different what we call fee properties, so properties that we own here in Humboldt County. And one is a 74-acre property called Freshwater Farms Reserve, located right in between Arcata and Eureka. The second is Martin Slough Conservation Land, which is in southern Eureka. It's 44 acres along Martin Slough. And the third property is a 77-acre parcel along Redwood Creek up in Orick. And so the big picture for these properties is habitat restoration and maintaining and promoting agricultural use on the property. So maintaining the property's agricultural viability and providing public access when possible. And so I am going to spend most of my time actually focusing on the North Coast Regional Land Trust, or excuse me, the North Coast Regional Land Trust. Yes, that's true. But I'm going to spend most of my time talking about Freshwater Farms Reserve, because Freshwater Farms Reserve, the North Coast Regional Land Trust sees it as this living laboratory that can provide for habitat conservation and restoration. It can provide for grazing lands and agricultural production along Humboldt Bay. It provides for public access and research opportunities. And so in 2005, with funding assistance from the State Coastal Conservancy, the North Coast Regional Land Trust purchased about 54 acres along Freshwater Creek, which drains into the greater Humboldt Bay. And then again in 2012, we purchased an additional, I should say the property next to Freshwater Farms Reserve came online for purchase. It was a 20-acre parcel, and then again with funding assistance from the State Coastal Conservancy and others, we were able to purchase the additional 20 acres. And so with the first 54 acres in 2005 and the second 20 acres in 2012, we merged the 2 parcels and created a 74-acre property along Freshwater Slough. And I should say that the 20 acres that we purchased in 2012 was formerly known as Freshwater Farms. And so through the union of the two parcels, we decided to maintain the name but add reserve. So Freshwater Farms Reserve emerged along Freshwater Slough in the greater Humboldt Bay. And we really hope that Freshwater Farms Reserve can provide important habitat for special status aquatic species, so coho salmon, tidewater goby, and we also see other fish species there like coastal cutthroat trout and steelhead, but we also hope that it can provide for agricultural use and production. So if you ever have made it out to Freshwater Farms Reserve, you may have seen cattle grazing in the pasture, or even goats. We have some new goats that are grazing along our nature trail. And speaking of the nature trail, another goal for Freshwater Farms Reserve is really to provide public access. So a place where the public can go and see multiple use land management practices in action. And in addition to promoting agricultural production and wildlife habitat, providing wildlife habitat, we also hope to promote local businesses and the sale of local products and goods. So if you have ever been to Freshwater Farms Reserve, you may have checked out the Kneeling Glen Farm Stand. The Kneeling Glen Farm Stand is operated by Kathy Mullen, and sells a lot of different local goods and products. So that is one way that we hope Freshwater Farms Reserve can achieve some of the goals of demonstrating multiple use land management practices. And also on the property, we hope to support our conservation partners. So one of those being the California Native Plant Society, who has their native plant nursery there. And we hope that it's a place that people can come and enjoy the nature trail. It's a 3/4 mile long nature trail, and we hope that folks can walk along the nature trail and enjoy maybe some native birds or some beautiful landscapes with lush riparians and slough networks and shallow wetlands and cattle. And so that's a little bit about Freshwater Farms Reserve. Freshwater Farms Reserve, gosh, I feel like I could talk about it all day. It's a really magical place, and it's open to the public year-round, so I encourage folks to check out Freshwater Farms Reserve, walk the nature trail, obviously being mindful of any recommendations that the county or the state has put forward in our current times of shelter in place and practicing best practices for social distancing. And so there you have it. That it was a very brief 13-minute synopsis of land trusts and their goals for conservation and strategies for that, and then a little bit about the North Coast Regional Land Trust and what our work focuses on. But I could not even begin to cover everything that a land trust does and all of the strategies for conservation. So if you are interested in learning more, please check out our website, ncrlt.org, or check us out on Facebook, and look at some of our social media links. We try to amplify the voices of our other land trust partners throughout the state and nationwide. So you'll always find those on our Facebook or Instagram. And this concludes our Connect to the Outdoors series. And I had such a great time connecting with you all virtually. I hope that it was able to provide you with some opportunities to connect with the outdoors during shelter in place. And stay tuned, because we will continue trying to provide some opportunity in June for you all to connect with the outdoors. So thank you so much, and see you soon.